And I want to say this in the most true, empowering sense. That this shake-up could have made you feel like making some radical changes and decisions. And over the last 2 weeks since the new moon, you could have decided to instigate some of these changes for yourself in a very empowered way. This is the point of these experiences. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. For those of you that aren't familiar, I'm Anna, Alchemist of the Arts. I'm an artist specialised in working with the runes. I also do readings and all kinds of other spiritual, personal growth related works over on my Instagram and over here on YouTube whenever I get the opportunity. So today we're going to be talking about the full moon eclipse in Taurus, which is happening on the 28th of October 2023. Now, we have 2 weeks ago had a new moon eclipse. We've now got the full moon eclipse, and this entirety of the time in between the two could have felt like a bit of a sorting out, a shake-up, a sifting through as a lot of things changed. This has been a great opportunity for us to shift, evolve, grow, learn, to let go, and full moons are all about typically letting go, but specifically leading in from the energy of the new moon, of everything of the past year. This is a great opportunity to look at our personal boundaries, to look at where it is we've been holding on to things that we really know have served their purpose in our life, and where it is we need to release some of these things in order to make way for what it is that we do truly want to experience. Now, collectively, there is this feeling of power struggles going on in the wider experience within our own personal lives. There can be this feeling of power struggles, and what I'm finding is that as we individually, collectively have grown, we've had an opportunity to establish and learn more about ourselves, our needs, our wants, our desires, our goals, our boundaries, our standards, whether those are physical, literal, energetic, whichever way. The opportunity that we've had to learn about those over the last few years, however long it is you've been doing this, for most of our lives, let's be real, we've had the opportunity to learn about what doesn't work for us. We've had that sense of opposition. We've probably, most people, if you're watching this, if you're interested in this kind of information, you might identify as highly empathic or highly sensitive, deeply spiritual. There's all different ways that you can find yourself into these learning pathways. Let's just personal development pathways. And what leads us into that is often life challenges. It's probably the absence of having solid boundaries, perhaps being mistreated by others, perhaps reaching a point of dissatisfaction or that feeling of wanting more in life. So all of those challenging experiences throughout the course of our lives are an opportunity to look back and to reflect on what it is that we actually do want in its place. And with this full moon eclipse, we've come to a point of really establishing two things, authenticity and integrity. This is our opportunity to really reconnect with both of those things and take back our power from any sources that feel disingenuous, that don't feel right, that feel like they're depleting us. This is an opportunity to establish and to put in those boundaries where we need them. So we can ask ourselves, where am I still feeling that sense of inner conflict? What feels like it's infringing upon my integrity or my authenticity? Where do I feel, say if it's your integrity, am I being asked to do things, to push my own boundaries for particular people, for a job role, for friends, to put myself in situations that I know are crossing my own necessarily established boundaries within yourself, the ones that you know that you need? Anything that infringes upon that is infringing upon your own sense of integrity. And that's an inner integrity. That's about being real with ourselves. And it's up to us to put in those boundaries. The second flip side of that is establishing where we are showing up in a way that is against our integrity. Perhaps we're trying to fit in, or perhaps we're trying to present in a certain way. And it could be a necessary survival strategy. It could be a way in which we feel we have to come across that is acceptable based upon cultural standards or the expectations of our parents. But if that is in conflict with our inner integrity, we're going to find ourselves at odds. We're going to find that conflict that we could be experiencing in the outer world, instead of being expressed, discussed, explored, worked through, challenged even, we internalize it all. It becomes a sense of inner conflict because we are not standing in what is right for us. We're not standing in our own integrity. So this eclipse is highly likely to amplify and illuminate anything that challenges our sense of integrity. And then the authenticity side of that is fairly similar, but authenticity is more about shining the light of who we are, allowing ourselves to be, to express, to do, to even visualize or dream about the things it is that we want. Who's the authentic version of you? And I had a really beautiful comment on one of my previous videos asking for some prompts about how to connect deeper with, higher senses of self, with the cosmos. And asking yourself, what's missing? What is missing from my life right now? And looking beyond, the literal, okay, so maybe you need more money. Maybe you need more resources. Maybe it's more time. Maybe you're exhausted. Maybe it's health. Looking beyond all that. Looking at, and I know this probably sounds a bit pie in the sky, but it's that blue sky vision. Say everything in your life, your basic needs are all taken care of. You have all the time, energy, financial resources that you need. Your health is great. What is it that you would want to do with your life? What inspires you? What makes you feel lit up? What are you passionate about? Is there something, a dream, a vision, a goal that hasn't left you alone your entire life? Is there a calling? And when I say the word calling, it feels like something that just is nestled. It can feel like a physical sensation in your body. For me, sometimes that sense of a calling is often in my chest, near my heart chakra. So is there that feeling, that kind of a tug that pulls you in a particular direction, that wants you to explore particular avenues? And these could be within work. It could be within your personal life. Perhaps it's charity work. Perhaps it's some kind of mission. It can be different for everybody. And I've been, working deeply on this stuff myself recently, shifting through some of my own limitations and recognizing the different gifts that I would like to use through the experiences that I've had, very real experiences that I would love to be able to share with others to help other people. And I've been listening to a lot of content from a lot of different people. A lot of these are quite spiritually minded business people, motivational speakers, things like that. And I was listening to Ed Milet recently, who's one of my personal favorites. And he was talking about how your mission in life, your sense of purpose, doesn't have to be connected to your job at all. And how we can actually find different ways of fulfilling that sense of purpose, that mission-driven purpose within our lives that don't involve earning a living or an income from it. And it's one of the reasons I feel much more guided to create videos like this, because that's one of the things I'm truly passionate about. That might not perhaps go with my art channel. My arts are all inspired by that, but to give you an example of me being authentic to who I am and being in my integrity, I know there's more I want to offer and more I want to share. And if ever there is a time, it feels like now, in our collective experience. So it's been a gradual process for so many of us. And for those of you that are perhaps just embarking on asking yourself some of these questions, perhaps it's the first time you've ever been in a position to ask yourself some of these questions. There is so much that can happen through these journeys, through each cycle of the moon, each cycle of the sun, a year. having the opportunity to reflect, to ask yourself these questions is really important. And being able to visualize a life beyond any of the limitations of the present moment. You know, this is why so many of the world's most renowned speakers, they will advocate meditation, because it disconnects us from the all of the worry and the anxious thoughts that might be circling around our minds, and give us the space to visualize something better, to something beyond it, and to really reconnect with the truest sense of who we are, our most authentic sense of self, the deepest inner self, the spiritual sense of self. You can call it the soul, you could call it the spirit. It's different, the animus, whatever it is, it's different for everybody, depending on your belief and your experience. And again, one of the most important things about being authentic to ourselves is establishing what feels right for us, establishing the highest truth for us, what feels right, and really learning to use our intuition, the sensation within our bodies, for what feels right. So with this eclipse, there certainly could be conflict coming up, with going back to this theme of power struggles. One of the prints that I picked out, that I've created, that I thought would be really powerful for this time, is this one, and it's called Taking Back Your Power. And this literally is all about reclaiming back your sense of self from outer sources that have tried to drain and deplete it. I'm showing you that just because it feels relevant. It's one of my paintings. It's a bindery painting, and I'll share more about those, and there's more about those in other places. But if you're interested, I'm happy to go into more depth about those in another video. This taking back our power is calling back energy from anything that has been distracting us from our higher sense of purpose. It can be habits, things that we do. Maybe it's addiction of some kind. Maybe it's just activities that we engage within that we know are not serving our highest purpose, or are derailing us in some way. For some people, the time between these two eclipses could have felt like a shake-up, anything from a shake-up to a major overhaul of life. So if you're falling into the shake-up category, then you could have felt like there have just been relationships that have felt strained. There could have been conflict. Again, the sense of power struggle. People perhaps tipping up and asking more of you than you were willing to give. And this could have felt like a test of being able to implement your own boundaries. It could have also felt really, and I want to say this in the most true, empowering sense, that this shake-up could have made you feel like making some radical changes and decisions. And over the last 2 weeks since the new moon, you could have decided to instigate some of these changes for yourself in a very empowered way. This is the point of these experiences. For others, it could have been more in the major life shake-up category. The major life changes. And it could have felt, you know, there could have been a lot of changes in relationships, drastic changes in circumstances, in living. There could have been really shocking news for some. And also just dealing with the enormity of some of what's going on in the collective, and how that can really make us feel as individuals, but as also as part of humanity. So working through some really big and challenging emotions. But again, within all of these things, you know, personally, I've been doing this consciously now, this kind of work consciously, spiritually, for maybe 10, 11 years. And I was exposed to it from younger years than that, even though it was not my thing when I was younger. But I was exposed to it from a much younger age. But in those 10 or so years, I've come to realise that it's not about avoiding chaos. It's not about avoiding challenges. It's not about getting to the point where there are no challenges in life, or you reach a kind of spiritual utopia where nothing's going to faze you. Nothing's going to come at you. You're not going to have to deal with any problems because life is blissful. It's about being able to recognize the cycles and patterns, and instead of going, why is this happening to me? I can't believe this is happening to me. This is so unfair. Going, okay, I can see what's going on here. What is the pattern? What is the lesson? How can I positively assert my energy into this situation? And if there is a no, if there is nothing that you can do within that situation to positively influence it, going, okay, how can I cope then within myself? How can I positively influence myself to feel empowered within this situation? It's one of those few things. It's learning the skills to cope with whatever comes, as opposed to anticipating a life where everything is just absolutely fine. Some people will have that life and that's beautiful, but again, I think doing this kind of work it works on many levels, because as we shift and we heal ourselves, we actually positively influence the people around us because of the version of us that they receive, whether that's, children or just anyone that we engage with. But again, being in a higher state of consciousness, a higher level of vibration, and how we show up in the world, both literally and energetically, whether that's on our purpose or in a role that just helps other people in some kind of way, even if it's and I know people discount their own contribution to the collective as a whole, to society. But being the greatest and most authentic version of yourself, no matter what you are doing, you are bringing your best energy to the situation. And that is a true shift in terms of, if enough people did that, that's how we shift the collective. So there is this sense here, because I appreciate I've gone off track a few times, with the massive convergence of these energies around this full moon eclipse, of really and truly recognizing perhaps people, circumstances or situations that infringe upon our boundaries, that maybe make us question our boundaries or our integrity, or maybe ask us to sacrifice aspects of ourselves. And instead of looking at those like, why is this happening? What do I do? The answer is, look at yourself. How can I positively exert my integrity and my authenticity within this situation? How do I put in these boundaries? What boundaries do I need to place? What is the most important thing for me? What is the most important outcome of this situation? If I remove myself and this other person, what is the overall ideal goal? It's looking at things from an expanded viewpoint. And sometimes, especially when we have the intensity of some of these chaotic emotions, and this is in Taurus, so they which is a fixed earth energy, and I'm a sun moon Taurus, so I know this one quite well. It can be stubborn. We can really hold on to stuff, and personally, this could be some of the biggest life lessons that we have been holding on to. And from experience, the life lessons that we need to learn will keep happening, will keep manifesting within our lives through different people, through different situations. They can be very different people and situations, but the experiences can be similar. And strangely, sometimes we can have experiences of a similar situation from different angles. And I think what this does is it helps us to expand our own viewpoint. It enables us to see things from multiple layers, points of view. I think that helps us to, on one level, not take things so personally, but also to develop that greater sense of empathy, awareness and understanding. Not just from our viewpoint to say, well, this is this, I'm right, this is my experience, but actually say, well, actually, this person did this to me, but I can see how in this situation I might have done that to that person. Or I can see this happening to somebody else and I'm there to support them. We have these repeating experiences from all different levels of perception or perspectives, is a better word. And all of them are giving us this opportunity to really get to the core of some of these, of our deepest things that we're here to overcome, to learn. And again, you might be able to see some of this stuff. It's often that we see some of these things for other people far more easily than we can see them for ourselves. And if we've got lots of people coming at us from different angles, calling on our energy, sometimes, and especially around at times like this, when the energy is super intense, one of the best things we can do is actually have a bit of solitude, to go into, either through meditation or to get into nature, to allow yourself to ground. You know, I would definitely say ground before you make any big decisions. Really allow yourself to tune back in. And again, why this is so important is, if we are highly empathic, highly sensitive people, and we're around a lot of people with heightened emotions or highly frenetic situations, until we've really sort of learned how to tune in to ourselves, to establish and discern our truest emotions within a situation. And even, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, you know, when things are really intense, we do sometimes just have to remove ourselves and allow ourselves to have that physical space, that clearance of the energy, of our own energy, away from anything else, even if it's just for a short period of time, to really come back and feel what it is we are feeling about the situation. What feels most integral in our being? What is the most, because not always, but we can think something about a situation, we can think a course of action is the best way, the right thing to do. But actually our system, our body, the anxiety, our nervous system, it is telling us something completely different. And we might think, but this looks great on paper, this seems right, but something inside you is screaming, don't do it. You have to come to the point of tuning in and doing what feels right for you. You know, it's learning the signs, and this will be different for everybody, because we have our own spirit, gods, guides, guardians, ancestors, angels, whichever way you want to look at it. It could be all of them, it could be one of them, whatever works for you, whatever you believe in, you connect with. They will communicate with you in different ways. They will communicate with you in your own ways. And again, we can attribute meaning to certain symbols, and over time they become the signifiers of our life, the warning signs, or the outer guidance. But truthfully, one of the most powerful things that has become my guide, it's how I channel, it's how I channel artwork, it's how I do readings for people, but it's also something that you know, it allows me to just read the energy in situations generally, is trusting how it feels within my body, is trusting in how it makes me feel systemically, emotionally, and being able to have enough time away from certain stimulus in order to calm myself and to begin to process what it is that I've experienced in some way. But again, that comes back to our own energetic integrity and authenticity, and learning to discern what is within you the right thing. And that might be contrary to what other people think, what other people expect, what other people ask. But if you know deep down that that is not right for you, you will be betraying yourself. So it could be a time of big decision making. And if that is the case, if that situation arises within your life, then I would most certainly say take as long as you need to call back your energy, to be in the purity of your own energy, away from distractions, away from the noise. With the best will in the world, it can be the people that you love the most. But actually, I find it's often the people that we're closest to, family members, children, that can dysregulate us the most, because we are so energetically connected with them and around them so often. So all the more reason, if you can, to get away, to clear your own energy, to take some headspace, even if it's just a few breaths barefoot on the grass outside before you make a phone call or send an email, or, you know, make a decision or respond to something. it could be your biggest ally at the moment to sort of to call that in, so you know that you're coming from your highest place and your highest integrity. So there is so much more that I could go into on this subject. I am going to do more of these videos that aren't just connected to full moon energies or you know, new moon, whatever. I wanted to share more of this information just in a general sense. So expect more of these. I will try and do more readings, but I'm struggling to find the time to do those at the moment. But I will do them as often as I can. That said, let's get some readings for the current energy and see what comes through. And what can guide us through these energies at the moment. Ooh. Savillo. And it's really interesting because this rune I see as a catalyst. Excuse me. It can signify the return of sunlight. And I know why my throat chakra is playing up now. I will return to this, but there are 3 main chakras that I feel are going to be most affected through this eclipse, and they are the solar plexus, because that comes all back to our personal power, but this leads directly up to the heart and to the throat. So this is the ability to be able to communicate lovingly what it is that we need to put in place, to recognize our boundaries, our needs, wants, desires, the direction in which we're being called, to be able to communicate with that, to allow the open path of communication in order to express what it is that we want to do, where it is that we want to go, and the ways in which that we want to move forwards. So those 3 chakras I think could be the most highly activated at this time. Which brings us back to Savillo, which connects to the sun. To me, this connects to the solar plexus, but it also connects to one of my personal favourite interpretations of this rune is like a lightning bolt. It does connect to the sun primarily, but to me, it's like a flash of lightning. It's that sense of a catalyst, a solar flare, something that disrupts, something that brings in light. It can be a bolt of light that comes in and shakes stuff up out of nowhere. And this can illuminate very, very quickly, very rapidly what it is that we need to see. It can trigger us to make great changes within our lives in sometimes unexpected ways. It can be the thing that shifts us out of resistance or a particular energy state and says, no more. That's enough. I'm drawing a line and I'm moving forwards. But equally, it can be the inspiration that says to us, I've had this brilliant idea. This is something that I really want to do. I am so excited and passionate and I'm ready to move forwards. Runes are so multifaceted. There is never any one way of looking at them. They are multi-layered. They are steeped in meaning, deep historical meaning, but also as you work with them, they reveal different layers of meaning. This is what I love about working with them the most. So Savillo is asking us to look at what needs to change in our life. It's asking us to listen to the inspiration, to the bolts of lightning, to recognize these sudden swift changes or ideas as potential catalysts for change. But these things require our active participation. They require us to be a willing participant to affect that change. An idea without action is going to remain an idea. We have to give life to it by applying our energy, our focus, and our attention into it. So let's get a second one. What do we got? Alchemist. Now, we've not had this come out in a collective reading for ages. And again, if ever there was a rune of connecting with, okay, what's coming through is the wisdom of our ancestors, and Alchemist is definitely a rune that could instigate that. Now, what this is saying to me, because not everybody will identify with that concept, what we can do is look for that kind of guiding force within our life. I mentioned Ed Milet earlier, and he could represent an archetypal energy of a guiding force within our lives. Somebody that acts within a way, with information that feels comforting, enlightening, and inspiring all at the same time. Perhaps there are people within your life, perhaps an older member of the family, either still present that you can discuss these things with. Maybe there is somebody that you respect that isn't a family member but has that kind of position where you could seek that kind of advice. But this to me is all about higher communication. Again, finding the highest path of communication, or communication to lead us to our highest path, to lead us forwards. So whether this is through meditation, through our own spiritual practices, through connecting with your own gods, guides, guardians, angels and ancestors, whatever it is for you, this is about taking the time to tune in, taking the time to listen, to be still, to connect, to ground, to really connect with the earth element, because that feels really, really prevalent at the moment. And what that does is it calls us back down to the level, like I'm getting the Schumann resonance really strongly, which is like the energetic frequency of the earth. So Schumann resonance is something that you could perhaps look up on YouTube as a meditation. People use it for sounds and things like that with meditations, as a frequency or as a tone that you can listen to, and that might be really, really helpful. But I would definitely say, to me, this is connecting with the greater sense of the world around you, with nature, with spiritual people, spiritual beings, things that bring you life, things that bring you energy, what brings you peace, what brings you comfort, what brings you inspiration, what brings you clarity. And it will be different for everybody, because everyone has their own way of receiving this information and this wisdom, which we've touched on earlier in this video. But truly, ask yourself some of these questions. Allow yourself to answer, either through a journaling practice or a meditation practice, or even just, I was listening to somebody earlier and they were just like, well, just speak out loud to yourself. And they even joked, you know, how this could, I think it was Clark Kegley, he was joking about how that can have some negative connotations with what people would presume. But having an inner dialogue through journaling or through meditation practices, through spiritual practices, is not really that drastically different sometimes to having an outer dialogue with self. So do what works for you. But allow the messages to come in, to create space for yourself to receive those messages. We'll get one more. What have we got? Ooh, Fehu. So Fehu really speaks about wealth. It speaks about a sense of worth. I will often say this about Fehu, because what people value, what people would consider their wealth, will be different. It can speak of self-worth, but also this is asking me, what is it that we're attributing value to? Where do you stack the chips in order of what is important in your life? What would make you feel most abundant? Is it having particular things? Is it the achievement of certain things? Will you tell yourself, I will be worthy, I will have achieved a certain level when I do da 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 da? And really, this is recognizing what Fehu is asking us to recognize is that everything that we need already exists within us. The potential for every outcome of living, of life, is there ahead of us. It's already there ahead of us. It's already exists within us as a potential. Cosmically within ourselves, is a genetic blueprint. The question we have to ask is, which one are we going to choose? Are we going to choose to believe that we can achieve the things that we want to do? Or are we going to tell ourselves, well, that's never going to happen. I'm never going to be able to do that. I'm never going to be able to afford that. You know, even as spiritual people, not everything can be done in the spiritual realms, because we need to call our energy back into this physical reality. We're still human beings having a very human experience, and ask ourselves, what is it that I think about this? What is it that I'm telling myself? Am I limiting myself? Am I cutting myself short in some way? Because those can be truly revealing, the answers that we get, especially around wealth. For some of you, it could be very literal, asking yourself to look at where you're earning money, the ways in which you're earning money, and what is it that you want to do in its place. It's connecting the sense of abundance, your sense of worthiness, and the ways in which you create financial resources. Do they feel misaligned? And trying to pull them, again, in whatever way that works for you, because it will be different for everybody. Trying to pull them into a way that feels best, and again, most authentic and in your integrity for you. So, is there work that you are doing or working you have been putting off doing that could really help you shift forwards? Is there a way, have you been putting off ways of generating more wealth? Do you have negative beliefs around money that perhaps are holding you back because you don't see how it can be a tool for you to reach and impact and help more people? There are all different beliefs we hold around money. Money's a really big one for a lot of people because it connects into all of our different layers of abundance, of wealth, and of worthiness. So asking yourself some very personal questions, or just allowing yourself to see what comes through when you look at this rune, or when you listen to this section of this reading, could be really, really powerful. And maybe just taking some time to journal. So I'm going to leave this here for you. As a reminder, personal readings are available. All of the information is in the description box below. If you've made it through this long, I think this is one of the longest videos that I've done. So I thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here with me. Any of my artwork, things like that, are available on my website and on my Etsy stores. Again, there is a full meaning on the back of these with the description of the runes and everything that came through as a channeled message with them. I do create channel bind runes for people as well. All of that is available. I mean, feel free to connect with me if you'd like to discuss anything. If I've touched on anything in this video that you would like me to explore in more detail, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. I am more than happy to go over these points in greater detail. But if this is the first time you've connected with me, then thank you for your time, your presence, and your energy. Please feel free to like, subscribe if that feels right for you. But thank you. Thanks to all of you that support me. I'm just sending you all my love. I hope these energies are not too harsh for you. But know that all of this stuff can be used to empower us to become our greatest sense of self and to find our greatest potential. So, lots of love, and I'll speak to you again really, really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.